The first vibration was faint, just a soft buzz on the wooden dining table, but the second one was loud enough to slice straight through the quiet of the house. I looked up from the half-eaten bowl of cereal and saw the family iPad light up. Another message, then another, then a long stream of them, appearing one after the other, like a rapid, panic confession unfolding in real time. At first, I didn't move. My brain didn't move. Something inside me froze, suspended in a strange vacuum where reality bent and blurred. I just stared at the screen from across the table, watching the notification banners stack over each other like frantic blinking alarms. From Aiden Jim. Message. Last night was insane. I can still feel you. Another. When can you get away again? Another. Delete your messages this time. For a moment, it felt like the room tilted sideways. A rushing in my ears. A drop in my stomach so steep it made me swallow hard. The sound of my own heartbeat pounding, pounding, pounding. Then a final banner popped up. Your husband has no idea. That turns you on, doesn't it? My throat tightened. A cold rush moved down my arms. Because the iPad didn't belong to Aiden. And it didn't belong to me. It belonged to my wife. Emily, my wife of 11 years. Mother of our 2 children. The woman who just kissed me goodbye 40 minutes ago. Her smartwatch, her Christmas gift from me, was synced to the family iPad. And it was exposing everything. I didn't walk toward the device. I lunged. My hand shook as I unlocked the screen. But before I could even tap the Messages app, another bubble appeared. Aiden, I dreamt about you wearing that red dress. The one you wore the day you met me. A sound escaped from me, half groan, half choke. Not loud, just broken. The red dress. The dress she wore on our anniversary dinner last year. My knees buckled for a second. I gripped the edge of the counter to steady myself, breathing fast, shallow, like someone had clamped a fist around my lungs. I didn't know how long I stood there staring at the messages without absorbing them fully. Seconds? Minutes? All I knew was that the truth, the real truth, poured into me too quickly to process. Emily wasn't just texting another man. She was seeing him, touching him, sneaking away to him. And she was doing all of it while I slept beside her. My wife was cheating. The thought didn't settle. It slashed. A slow burn crawled up my neck, followed by a wave of nausea so strong I had to close my eyes. Breathe, Daniel. Breathe. But breathing did nothing. Nothing could dilute the corrosive images igniting in my mind. Their hands, their whispers, their shared breath in the dark. I tapped the Messages app. It opened to a thread so full it might as well have been a diary. Emily, I wish I could spend the whole night with you. Aiden, soon. Just tell him your shift ran late again. My vision blurred for a moment. Again. That word dug in deeper than the rest. How many times had she used me as an excuse? How many nights had I sat on the couch watching the driveway, trusting her, loving her, completely unaware? A door clicked upstairs, soft, small, a routine morning sound. My daughter getting ready for school. My son rustling in his room. Life was still happening upstairs, perfectly normal, as if the ground beneath me hadn't just ruptured. I shut the iPad quickly, my breath catching, as if the house itself shouldn't witness this. I set it gently on the table, though every cell in my body was shaking, throbbing, screaming. My first instinct was denial. Maybe this was old. Maybe it wasn't what it looked like. Maybe. But the timestamps glared at me. Last night, 3:17 a.m., 3:19 a.m., 3:25 a.m., while I slept alone in bed, thinking she was in the guest room because she couldn't sleep with a migraine. All eyes. Another tremor went through my hands. The quiet of the kitchen suddenly felt oppressive, too sharp, too bright, too still. The refrigerator hum became a roar. The tick of the wall clock hammered against my skull. I sat down, elbows on the table, palms pressed against my forehead. Why? How? What did I miss? God, there were signs. Little ones. Brushed aside because love can make you blind. Or was willing to be. Her sudden obsession with the gym. Her new late shifts. Her smiles at her phone. Her irritation when I walked into the room while she was texting. Her pulling away from me in bed. I told myself marriages go through phases. I told myself she was stressed, tired, overwhelmed. I told myself anything except the truth. Footsteps came down the stairs, light ones, familiar ones. My daughter, Lily. I quickly wiped at my face, forcing my expression into something neutral, something functioning, something father-like. She walked into the kitchen rubbing her eyes, her hair tangled halo around her head. "Dad? You okay?" I swallowed hard. My voice felt trapped behind a barricade of emotion. "Yeah, just tired." She nodded, not convinced, but too sleepy to push. I poured her cereal mechanically. Every motion felt like it belonged to someone else, someone normal, someone whose life hadn't shattered 30 minutes ago. But I didn't have the luxury of falling apart. Not in front of them. Emily's footsteps followed 10 minutes later. Light, carefree, completely unaware that her world, our world, had cracked open. "Morning," she said softly, kissing the top of Lily's head before glancing at me. I looked at her, really looked at her, her hair tied in a loose ponytail, her sweatshirt the same one she's worn 100 times, her face still the one I memorized years ago. She didn't look like a stranger, but she felt like one. "Morning," I said, my voice steady in a way it didn't deserve to be. Her eyes lingered on me a second longer than usual. "You okay? You look pale." "You should be asking yourself that, Emily. Didn't sleep well," I said. She nodded and walked toward the sink, her smartwatch buzzed on her wrist. She glanced at it just for a moment and smiled, not at me, at him. And that tiny, unconscious smile twisted something deep inside me so violently that I had to grip the back of a chair to anchor myself. I wasn't ready to confront her. Not yet. Not while the kids were in the room. Not while my hands were still shaking. Not while I still needed to understand the full depth of the betrayal before I tore open the truth. But I would. Oh, I would. And when I did, she wouldn't see it coming. I looked at her again. My wife, the woman I loved with a sincerity that now felt foolish, childish, humiliating. She rinsed a cup, humming under her breath. Calm, normal, deceiving. I turned my attention to the iPad again, still lying face down on the table. The device that had spilled everything. The device that had become the match to this slow, devastating explosion. My pulse thudded. The kids chatted. Emily moved around the kitchen. And I made a silent, steady promise to myself. I will know everything before this day is over. Every detail. Every lie. Every reason. But more importantly, I will decide what to do with the truth I never asked for. The moment the kids left for school, the house fell into an eerie, suffocating silence, one that seemed to thicken the air rather than clear it. Emily lingered by the front window for a second after the bus drove away, rubbing her arms as if she felt a chill. The same chill ran through me, but mine came from the inside, from the truth now sitting heavy, poisonous, undeniable. She turned toward me, a small smile, soft, familiar. I felt my jaw clench. "Do you want coffee?" she asked. Normal question, normal tone, normal morning. Except nothing was normal anymore. "Sure," I said. My voice was quiet, controlled. That scared me. Control felt like the only thing keeping the storm inside from exploding. She moved toward the kettle. I watched her fingers, steady, delicate, as she filled it. I watched the way she avoided my eyes, not out of guilt but out of routine. I watched her swipe a strand of hair behind her ear, the same gesture I used to find adorable. Now it felt rehearsed, mechanical, shared with someone else. I pulled out a chair and sat, the iPad in front of me like a loaded weapon. "Emily," I said. She froze for just a fraction of a second, so quick and untrained I might have missed it. But I didn't miss anything anymore. Not the stillness in her shoulders, not the sudden alertness in her posture. She set the kettle down slowly and turned to face me. "Yeah." I tapped the iPad. "Your watch synced." Her face paled, just slightly, but enough. Her throat swelled with a tiny, involuntary swallow. She walked closer, each step airy and careful, as if the floor had become thin ice. "What do you mean?" she asked. Too light, too casual. I didn't answer. I just turned the iPad around. The message thread filled the screen, blue and gray bubbles containing every secret, every betrayal, every moment she once thought was hidden. She stared at it. Her breath hitched. The color drained from her cheeks so fast it was like watching someone turn to stone. Then she whispered a single, trembling word. Oh! Oh! Not I can explain. Not Daniel. Please. Not this isn't what it looks like. Just, oh. Her knees softened and she reached for the table's edge, gripping it like she was suddenly weightless. How long? I asked. The question came out low, almost eerily calm. Her mouth opened and closed. Daniel. How long? She sank into the chair across from me, her body folding into itself like she was bracing for impact. A few months, she said. Something in my chest detonated. A few months. I had expected lies. Minimization. Denial. But the truth, fast, sharp, unfiltered, cut deeper. Who is he? I forced out. A trainer at the gym, she whispered. I let out a slow, bitter laugh. Of course. The gym. My hand shook. I curled them into fists under the table. Why? I asked. Why him? Why any of this? Why us? Tears welled in her eyes. I didn't mean for. No, I cut her off. No cliches. No accidents. You chose this. Every message. Every lie. Every time you walked past me like I was invisible. She flinched. I almost didn't care. But then she said something that made my pulse stop. I wasn't trying to replace you. The words hung between us. I stared at her, stunned by the absurdity. You weren't trying to replace me. Emily, you were sleeping with another man. In our bed. She shook her head fast, panicked. No, never in our bed. I swear. The relief I should have felt never came. Not even a drop. Because betrayal is betrayal. Location doesn't soften the blow. She wiped at her face with trembling fingers. I was lonely, Daniel. The sentence sliced at me in a different way. Unexpected, uneven, confusing. Lonely? I almost scoffed, but something inside me twisted painfully. Lonely? I repeated. We live in the same house. Raise the same kids. Share the same bed. Talk every day. How could you be lonely? She crushed a tear with her thumb. Because you weren't really there. The room froze. A quiet, stunned silence washed over us. She wasn't accusing me. She wasn't deflecting. She was hurting. I tried to talk to you, she whispered. About us. About how distant things felt. You'd always say you were tired or stressed or that we'd talk later. But later never came. My chest tightened. Not because she was right, and not because she was wrong, but because the truth was complicated. I had been distant, drowning in work, exhausted, on autopilot at home. I told myself it was temporary, that life had seasons, that she understood, but I never asked if she did. I assumed she would wait. I assumed love meant we were safe. Emily, I said, rubbing my forehead, you don't fix loneliness by setting the house on fire. She covered her mouth with shaking fingers. I know, Daniel, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I can't undo any of it. I messed up. I messed up horribly. Tears streamed down her face now, but something inside me remained still. Cold, heavy. Did you love him? I asked quietly. Her breath stopped. Her shoulders collapsed. She stared at the table. I felt my heart dying even before she whispered, I don't know. Silence. Dense. Merciless. The kettle suddenly clicked off behind her, its metallic pop slicing through the moment like a cynical applause. I exhaled shakily. What happens now, Emily? What do we do with this? She shook her head, crying harder. I don't know. Tell me what you want. I'll do anything. I'll cut him off. I'll delete everything. I'll quit the gym. I'll go to counseling. Just don't give up on us. Please. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I saw a woman who loved me, but failed me. A woman I loved, but could no longer trust. A marriage we both contributed to, me with neglect, her with betrayal. and a wound too deep for quick promises. I leaned back slowly, feeling like my body was made of stone. "Emily," I said, "I don't think you understand what you've done." She gasped. "Please, please don't say you're leaving." "I'm not leaving," I said. "Not yet. Not today. Not without thinking. But I'm also not staying the way I was before." She swallowed, terrified. I stood up, walked to the living room, picked up my car keys. "Daniel." Her voice cracked. "Where are you going?" "To breathe," I said. "Something I haven't been able to do since 8 this morning." She stood, nearly stumbling toward me, gripping my arm. "Please, come back. Promise me you'll come back." I looked down at her hand on me, then up at her eyes, red, wet, shaking. "I'll come back," I said, "but things won't be the same." Her face crumpled. I stepped outside. Cold air wrapped around me, sharp and sobering. I didn't know what the future held, whether forgiveness was possible, whether trust could ever be rebuilt, whether we would survive this. But one thing hit me as I sat in the car, gripping the steering wheel with trembling hands. Betrayal doesn't end with the confrontation. It begins there, and our story, whatever was left of it, was only just starting to unfold.